Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into regret
Ooh.
using this article called Regret and How to Live Without It. And one of the things I found really interesting about this article is it kind of pushes back on the idea that we should base our lives on the regrets that people have at the end of their lives.
Yeah.
You know, like those classic, I wish I had
Right.
kind of things. So I'm really curious to get into this with you and see, how we can kind of unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very valid question. And the article actually dives into some of the nuances of these so-called regrets of the dying.
Okay.
Things like wishing they'd spent more time with loved ones or pursued their passions. And while those are, very powerful and valuable insights, I think just applying them kind of universally as a guidebook for everyone ignores the fact that everybody's journey is so unique.
Yeah, it's like saying, well, this person regretted not traveling the world, so therefore everyone should travel the world.
Right, exactly.
But like, what if you have, I don't know, family obligations, or, you're taking care of someone, or there's
Yeah.
so many other factors.
Exactly. We can't just assume that everybody had the same opportunities, the same resources available to them.
Right.
Like, for instance, there's research that shows that financial constraints are a huge factor in a lot of people's career regrets.
Hmm.
They might have wanted to pursue a different path, but they just simply, you know, couldn't afford to or felt like they couldn't.
Hmm.
So I think it's really important when we look at those kinds of statements about regret to look at the context.
Yeah, it's like trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces.
Exactly. You're not going to get the full picture.
Right.
So yeah, I think when we're hearing about these regrets, it's crucial to consider what factors might have been influencing the choices that those people made.
Right.
What were their priorities at the time?
Okay, so the article also talks a lot about taking ownership of our choices.
Hmm.
And it really highlights how fear, and particularly the fear of uncertainty, can be a big roadblock for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But how do we even begin to, like, untangle that fear?
Well, I think it starts with awareness, right?
Okay.
Um, Fear often drives us toward the familiar,
Hmm.
even if it means sacrificing parts of ourselves along the way.
Hmm.
Think about those really conventional paths that people take. The steady job, the safe relationship. These things offer us a sense of security, but they might not necessarily be aligned with our deepest desires.
And is it okay to choose that stability, though? Does the
Absolutely.
article address that?
It does, yeah. It's not about judging those choices at all. It's about recognizing that even choosing stability is a choice.
Hmm.
It's an active decision, not something that just happens to us.
Okay.
And I think that's powerful because it puts you back in the driver's seat.
Right. So instead of feeling like, oh, I'm trapped in this job or I'm trapped in this relationship, it's more like, okay, I chose this path, and at the time, it made sense.
Exactly.
Huh.
It shifts the focus from what if to this is what I chose and here's what I've learned from it.
Hmm.
Now I'm curious. Can you think of a time when fear influenced a major decision in your life?
Ooh, that's a good one. I remember.
Yeah, it's amazing how those fears can like really shape our paths.
So it is.
So the article also goes into this whole idea of regret itself.
Yeah.
Like it normalizes it as like just a part of the human experience.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting because it even ties regret to like this concept of missed opportunities, which makes sense. Like there's always going to be something that we didn't do or a path we didn't take.
Yeah.
But then it goes on to say that regret is like just a natural outcome of life's complexity.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the choices we have to make, like how can we not have some regrets?
Exactly. We're constantly navigating through this fog of imperfect information.
Yeah.
Every decision we make closes off other possibilities.
Mm,
Think about it like choosing a path in a forest.
right,
You can only walk down one at a time.
right.
So by definition, you're going to miss out on all those other paths.
Okay, so then wouldn't that mean that even like the people who seem to have it all,
Yeah.
like they took risks, they achieved their dreams, wouldn't they still experience regret too?
Absolutely. The article gives this great example of like even someone who becomes a successful musician,
Okay.
they might still regret, not spending enough time with their family or something like that.
Mm.
So it really highlights how regret doesn't discriminate. It's not about achieving some like perfect life, but about learning to navigate the choices that we make along the way.
Okay, so how does this perspective, this idea that regret is normal, How does that actually help us like deal with it?
Well, I think it allows us to shift from self-blame to self-compassion.
Hmm.
Instead of saying, I regret doing X, you can try reframing it as I've learned from that experience. That subtle shift in language can actually have a pretty powerful impact on how we view our past.
That's a great tip. So instead of dwelling on what we should have done, we can focus on what we've gained from the experience, even if it was, maybe not the ideal outcome.
Exactly.
Okay, now the article also kind of it challenges this idea of chasing achievements, like those achievements that are based on societal norms. It's almost like it's calling for us to redefine success altogether.
And it is. It's really encouraging this mindset of exploration and curiosity.
Okay.
Like instead of focusing on checking off items on some predetermined list,
Right.
it's about, those small steps towards personal growth
Right.
rather than trying to like force some grand predetermined outcome.
So instead of asking, did I achieve everything on my to-do list? Maybe the question becomes, what did I learn this year? How did I grow?
Exactly. And that's where embracing uncertainty comes in, right?
Okay.
Because life's going to throw us curveballs.
It does, yeah.
And if we're rigidly attached to a specific outcome, we might miss those unexpected opportunities that come our way.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it's about being open to those detours and remembering that oftentimes the most rewarding discoveries are found, off the beaten path.
So what does that look like practically speaking, though? The article mentions, starting small,
Right.
but that can feel kind of vague.
It is, yeah. It's really about finding something that sparks your curiosity.
Okay.
Maybe it's learning a new skill, connecting with someone new, spending time in nature.
Right.
It doesn't have to be some grand gesture.
Hmm.
But what's a small step that you could take today to just explore something that excites you?
Yeah, it's like dipping your toes in the water before diving in head first.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It feels a little less intimidating that way.
Yeah.
And speaking of feeling intimidated, the article also, it really emphasizes that we shouldn't let fear of failure hold us back.
But
Yeah.
but isn't there a danger in completely letting go of regret?
Mm-hmm.
Like, could it lead to, I don't know, making the same mistakes over and over again?
That's a great point. And, the article's not advocating for like reckless abandon or anything like that. It's more about uh, a balanced approach.
Yep.
Remember, we talked about reframing regret as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
That's key here. It's not about ignoring our mistakes, but about like really extracting the wisdom from them.
So it's like that saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me.
Exactly. We can acknowledge our past choices, learn from them, and then make more informed decisions moving forward. And this is where, self-compassion becomes really crucial.
Hmm.
We need to remember that those past decisions were based on the information that we had at the time.
Right.
So instead of like beating ourselves up about it, we can choose to be kind to ourselves. Yeah, it's like giving our past selves a little grace, like acknowledging that, we were doing the best we could with what we knew.
Exactly.
But how do we balance that self-compassion with the need to like hold ourselves accountable?
That's the art of it, isn't it? It's about finding that sweet spot between, acceptance and growth.
Right.
We can acknowledge our missteps without letting them define us. And the article really emphasizes this point that there is no like correct way to live.
It's so freeing to let go of that pressure, I think.
It is.
To like conform to some external standard of success.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about embracing a more fluid and personal approach to life,
Okay.
recognizing that there's no like one size fits all blueprint for, happiness or fulfillment.
So instead of searching for the right answers, it's about figuring out what feels authentic and meaningful to us,
Mhm.
even if it means going against the grain. And maybe just maybe that's the key to living a life with less regret, or at least, less of that heavy, burdensome kind of
I
regret.
think so. Yeah.
It really is like it's about creating a life that reflects our own values, not what somebody else thinks we should be doing.
Right.
So where does regret fit into all of this? Like if we're not supposed to be striving for this like perfect life without regret, then what are we supposed to be doing with it?
Yeah, that's where I think the article's final message is really powerful. Instead of striving for a life devoid of regret, which let's face it, is impossible.
Right.
Maybe the real challenge is learning to live with regret.
Like to embrace it as part of the journey and not something to be like feared or erased.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To use it as a catalyst for growth.
Mm.
We talked about reframing regret as a learning experience.
Yeah.
That's where the real power lies.
So instead of letting those like what ifs haunt us, we can ask ourselves, okay, what can I learn from this?
Right.
How can I use this experience to make, better choices moving forward?
Exactly. And that brings us to, I think, the core takeaway from our deep dive today, which is that, regret is inevitable.
Yeah.
It's part of being human, but it doesn't have to define us. It can actually be a source of wisdom, a reminder of our values, and even a springboard for creating a life that feels more authentic and fulfilling.
It's almost like regret becomes like a thread woven into the fabric of our lives, you
Hmm.
know? It adds depth, it adds texture. It's not like a stain that we're desperately trying to scrub out.
Mm,
Yeah,
what a beautiful way to put it.
thanks.
And here's a final thought for you to ponder. What if instead of viewing regret as a sign of failure, we saw it as evidence of our capacity for growth and change?
Mm. That's a really powerful shift in perspective.
Right.
Yeah. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I really encourage you to reflect on your own relationship with regret.
Mm-hmm.
How has it shaped your journey? What lessons has it taught you?
Yeah.
And how can you, integrate those insights to create a life that truly aligns with your values and your aspirations?
Yeah, remember there's beauty to be found even in the most challenging experiences.
Right.
Allow those experiences to inform your choices, guide your path,
Yep.
and ultimately lead you to a life that feels rich, meaningful, and authentically yours.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep embracing the full spectrum of human experience,
Yes.
regret and all.